So we're given a quadratic function here, f of x equals negative 3x squared plus 12x. We know that the graph of a quadratic function is a parabola, and we're going to determine the maximum or minimum depending on the function of the parabola. So let's look at a few things here. The coefficient of x squared, that is the number multiplied to x squared, that's the number that determines whether the parabola opens upwards or downwards. So that the coefficient of x squared is a. If a is less than 0, which means if it is negative, then the parabola looks like this. It opens downwards. If a is greater than 0, which means a is positive, then the parabola opens upwards. So if it opens downwards, the vertex is a maximum, point of maximum on the graph. And if it opens upwards, then the vertex is a point of minimum on the graph. Now in this case, since a is negative, we know that the parabola opens downwards, and therefore the vertex of the parabola is a maximum. So we can find the vertex of the parabola in two different ways. We can complete squares and find the vertex of the parabola, or we can use the formula hk is negative b over 2a, comma 4ac minus b squared divided by 4a. If we know a, b, and c, we can plug in the numbers into this formula to get the coordinates of the vertex. So let's try doing that. So f of x equals negative 3x squared plus 12x. So a is equal to negative 3 plus 12x. So that is the coefficient of x is 12. So that's b. And c is equal to 0. So if there is no constant, then that tells us that c is equal to 0. Now hk is negative b over 2 times a, comma 4 times a times c minus b squared over 4 times a. So let's simplify this to get 3 times 2 is 6, so that's negative and negative cancel each other out, and we get a 2, comma this becomes 0, so we have negative 12 squared over negative 12, so that's equal to positive 12 times 12 is 12 squared over 12. The 12s cancel each other out and we get positive 12. Now, if we remember the formula, then that's a quick way of calculating hk. Now, since the parabola opens downwards, we know that this is the maximum point on the parabola. This is the maximum point because the graph opens downwards. Another way of saying that would be the maximum occurs at x equals 2. Now we're going to use a different technique, an alternate method to figure out hk, and that is by the traditional method of completing squares. So if you don't remember the formula is complicated. So if you forget the formula, there is another way of doing this, and that is by completing squares. So we factor out the negative 3 from the first two terms. The third term is missing, it's a 0. So that would be x squared minus, since that's a plus, so that's basically negative 3x squared minus negative 3 times 4x. So that's how I get a 4x. Now we're going to complete squares within the parentheses to get negative 3x squared minus 4x. We take the middle term, negative 4, divide by 2, and we're going to square it anyway, so we don't need to consider the negative. So that's 4 divided by 2 the whole squared, minus 4 divided by 2, which is 2 the whole squared. We add and subtract, so that way we are not changing the expression. So these three terms together would form the perfect square. So this would be negative 3 times x minus 2 the whole squared. X minus 2 the whole squared is x squared minus 4x plus 4. Note that a plus b the whole squared is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. We're using that formula to complete the squares. Minus 2 squared, which is 4. Now we're going to distribute the 3. So we get negative 3x minus 2 the whole squared plus 12. So f of x equals negative 3 times x minus 2 the whole squared plus 12. We are comparing it with the standard form, which is negative 3 times x minus h the whole squared plus k. So clearly, so negative a, so I'm sorry, it's just a times x minus h the whole squared plus k. So a is negative 3, h is 2, and k is 12. So hk, the vertex, is 2, 12. So whether we use the formula or we complete squares, we get the same vertex. We know it's a maximum because this number, which is negative, tells us that the parabola opens downwards. A negative number that's a, tells us it opens downwards. So therefore, we would have to have a maximum at x equals 2. So maximum at x equals 2, or the maximum value is 2, or the maximum point is 2, 12. This is the maximum value of the function, the y coordinate.